The first time I realized something was wrong, it wasn't the late nights or the unanswered phone calls. It was the silence. My husband, Daniel, had always been a talker. He could turn the smallest event into a half-hour story, full of charm and laughter. But now, he came home wordless, carrying an invisible weight that pressed between us at the dinner table. I told myself it was work. He had always been ambitious, climbing his way up the corporate ladder with tireless determination. But even ambition couldn't explain why he smelled faintly of perfume some nights, or why he guarded his phone like it held state secrets. At first, I ignored it. I had been with Daniel long enough to know that relationships ebb and flow. But then small cracks appeared in the perfect picture we had built. A missed anniversary dinner, a credit card charge for a luxury hotel he swore was for a client, a lipstick stain on a shirt he claimed was from a co-worker's hug. The excuses stacked up like bricks in a wall between us, and I began to feel trapped on the outside of my own marriage. The breaking point came one Friday night. Daniel said he was working late, but at 11:47 p.m., a message pinged on his phone while he showered. My heart hammered as I stared at the glowing screen. The preview flashed words that made my blood run cold. "I can't wait until she's out of the picture. Then we can finally be together without sneaking around." The message wasn't signed, but it didn't need to be. The truth screamed louder than any name could. My hands trembled as I scrolled, my chest tightening with every word. Dozens of messages, hidden under a contact name labeled Client A. Sweet nothings, weekend plans, promises, even photos of them together in places Daniel had claimed were business trips. The room spun, my legs gave out, and I slid to the floor, clutching his phone like it was poison. This wasn't just infidelity. It was a betrayal of everything we had built. Every vow, every memory, every dream. When Daniel came out of the shower, towel around his waist, humming like nothing had changed, I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone at him or collapse into tears. Instead, I handed it to him with a smile that wasn't a smile. "I think this belongs to you," I said, my voice shaking with a calmness I didn't feel. His face paled as he saw the open messages. For a moment, he looked like the man I had once loved. Panicked, desperate, human. But then something darker flashed across his face. Instead of apologizing, instead of falling to his knees and begging, Daniel narrowed his eyes. "You shouldn't have gone to my phone." The audacity of it stole my breath. Here was a man who had been lying, cheating, building a second life behind my back, and the only thing he could muster was anger at being caught. That was the night something inside me broke, and in its place, something new was born, a quiet resolve, a hunger for justice, a plan forming in the shadows of my thoughts. Because Daniel had chosen lies over love, and soon he would learn what it meant to lose everything he thought he could control. But first, I had to play my part. I had to pretend, smile through dinners, kiss him goodnight, nod at his excuses. I had to let him think he had won, that I was too weak to fight back. Because when the time came, my revenge wouldn't just be about betrayal. It would be about taking back my power and making sure Daniel never saw it coming. The days that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Pretending I didn't know, pretending I was blind, was like living inside a nightmare. But I forced myself to play the role of the devoted wife, smiling when he spoke, listening when he rambled, even touching his hand when he reached for mine. Daniel thought he had me fooled. He walked around with that smug air, as though he were the smartest man in the room. But the truth was, he was a fool. Because while he was building his secret life, I was building a plan. The first step was information. I couldn't just accuse him and expect justice. Men like Daniel were slippery, always ready with another lie. I needed proof, something undeniable. So I started digging. Every morning after he left for work, I combed through his credit card statements. I found receipts for dinners at restaurants we had never gone to together, hotels in the city, jewelry I had never seen. It was all there in black and white, screaming his betrayal. Next, I reached out to a private investigator. It felt surreal, like something out of a movie, but I knew I needed someone who could follow him without being noticed. Within a week, I had photos, Daniel arm in arm with her. Daniel kissing her outside a hotel. Daniel holding her hand in broad daylight. Her name was Claire. Young, pretty, naive. I hated her for what she had done, but part of me also pitied her. She thought she had stolen my husband. She had no idea what kind of man he really was, or what kind of woman I could be when pushed to the edge. The second step was silence. I told no one, not friends, not family. If I wanted my revenge to work, Daniel couldn't suspect anything. I had to let him keep believing he was winning. So we forgot our anniversary completely. I simply smiled and told him I understood. When he came home late with his shirt untucked and his cologne reeking of cheap perfume, I kissed him on the cheek. When he lied to my face about business trips, I helped him pack. Inside, I was boiling. But on the outside, I was calm, serene, untouchable. The third step was the most important. Timing. I knew Daniel's weaknesses, his ego, his obsession with money, his desperate need to be admired. And I knew exactly how to use them against him. It started small. I suggested we refinance the house to save money. I encouraged him to put everything in his name, since you're so good with finances. He didn't question it. He liked control too much. He signed every document I slid in front of him, never realizing I was quietly pulling the strings. Next, I convinced him to invest in a friend's business venture. Of course, the friend didn't exist. The account was mine, under a name he would never recognize. Slowly, carefully, I drained him every bonus, every savings account, every cent he thought he was hiding away for his new life with Claire. But I wasn't done. I started recording conversations, little slips he made when he thought I wasn't listening, lies he told to cover up weekends away. And then, one night, I got exactly what I needed. He was on the phone with Claire, pacing the living room while he thought I was asleep. She's so clueless, he laughed. I could tell her I was going to the moon, and she'd believe it. Once I've got enough money stacked, I'm leaving her. Claire, baby, will be free. Those words. Once I've got enough money stacked, I'm leaving her. I saved the recording. That was the nail in his coffin. The rage inside me burned, but I kept it hidden. I played the part of the doting wife even harder. I cooked his favorite meals, asked about his day, even wore the perfume he liked. He thought he was untouchable. He thought I was weak. He thought he was in control. But every day, every lie, every betrayal was just another thread in the web I was weaving around him. And soon, that web would tighten. Because I wasn't going to just leave Daniel. I wasn't going to scream or beg or fight for scraps of his attention. No, I was going to take everything. His money, his reputation, his freedom to walk away without consequence. And the best part? He would never see it coming. But there was one thing I hadn't counted on. Claire. She wasn't as naive as I thought. And the role she was about to play in my revenge would turn everything upside down. The night everything began to unravel was deceptively ordinary. Daniel came home late, loosening his tie and tossing his jacket over the couch like he always did. He kissed me on the cheek, that same hollow peck he gave me when he thought he was playing the part of the husband. But I had already set the stage. Earlier that day, Claire had reached out to me. She wasn't the naive mistress I had imagined. She was smart, and more importantly, she was angry. "Did you know," she asked over the phone, "that Daniel promised me he'd divorce you last year? That he said you were weak, boring, and that he only stayed with you for financial security?" Her voice shook, not with guilt, but with fury. I could almost picture her, clutching her phone with white knuckles, realizing she had been nothing more than another pawn in Daniel's game. I listened quietly as she poured out her side of the story. How Daniel had borrowed money from her too, promising he'd pay it back once he got rid of the baggage. How he had convinced her to put her name on certain accounts, only to vanish when bills piled up. He had betrayed her, too. That was when it hit me. Claire wasn't my enemy. She was the missing piece of my revenge. We met in secret at a cafe, two women bound by the same betrayal. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of solidarity. Claire wasn't weak. She was burning with the same fire I was. Together, we devised a plan. The trap would be simple, elegant, and devastating. A week later, Daniel received an invitation to a business dinner at a high-end restaurant downtown. He strutted around the house like a king preparing for his coronation, bragging about the deal he was about to close. He had no idea that the dinner wasn't real. When he arrived, the first thing he saw wasn't a client. It was me, sitting at the table, calm and collected, with a stack of papers beside my wine glass. And across from me sat Claire, her arms crossed, her glare sharper than knives. Daniel froze. His face drained of color. What is this? This, I said, sliding the papers across the table, is everything. The bank statements, the photos, the recordings, every lie you told, every dollar you stole, every promise you broke, all documented. Claire leaned forward, her voice laced with venom. And these, she added, pulling out her own stack, are the debts you left me with, the accounts you tricked me into opening. Proof that you didn't just betray your wife. You defrauded me, too. For the first time, Daniel looked small. He stammered, tried to laugh it off, but the evidence was undeniable. His empire of lies was collapsing right there in that restaurant, under the dim chandelier lights and the silent stares of strangers at nearby tables. But I wasn't finished. Here's the deal, Daniel, I said, my voice steady. You sign over the house to me. You walk away with nothing. And if you don't, every single piece of this evidence goes public. Your job, your reputation, your precious little image, it will all burn. He opened his mouth to protest, but Claire cut him off with a single line that silenced him completely. Or we can take this straight to the police. Fraud is a serious crime. He signed. He didn't have a choice. His hand shook as he scribbled his name. His arrogance shattered, his mask stripped away. When it was done, Claire and I stood up together, leaving him there with nothing but the wreckage of his lies. Walking out of that restaurant, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. The man who thought he controlled me, who thought I was blind, who thought he could build his life on deceit, was ruined. Claire and I never became friends. Not really, but we shared something deeper. The satisfaction of watching the man who betrayed us both lose everything. In the weeks that followed, Daniel tried to crawl back. He called, begged, even showed up at the house once. But he wasn't the same man anymore. He was hollow, desperate, stripped of everything that once made him dangerous. And me, I was free. Free from his lies, free from his control, free from a marriage that had nearly destroyed me. Looking back, I realized something important. Betrayal has a way of breaking you, but it also has a way of remaking you. Daniel thought he had stolen my life, but in the end, he gave me something far more valuable. He gave me my strength back, and that was the sweetest revenge of all.